Some moments in history are so powerful they can change the course of the entire world in just a few hours. This is the story of one of those moments, the attack on Pearl Harbor. Let's dive in. So I want you to picture it. It's a quiet, tropical Sunday morning. For the thousands of American sailors and soldiers stationed in Hawaii, it was just another day in paradise. But that peace was about to be completely shattered. So how on earth did this happen? Well, an attack this huge doesn't just come out of nowhere. To really get what happened, we first have to understand why it happened. And that story starts with a conflict that was quietly building across the Pacific Ocean. Okay, so what exactly was Pearl Harbor? It's this massive natural harbor in Hawaii. And back in 1941, it was the single most important American military base in the entire Pacific. It was home to the U.S. Pacific Fleet, a huge collection of powerful warships, and almost everyone believed it was an unbreakable fortress. The heart of the problem was that the United States and Japan wanted completely opposite things. Japan was trying to build a massive empire in Asia, mainly to get its hands on resources like oil that it just didn't have. The U.S. was against this expansion, so they cut off Japan's oil supply to try and stop them. And because of that, Japan started to see the American fleet at Pearl Harbor as the one major obstacle standing in its way. With diplomacy totally failing, Japan's military leaders decided on a really bold and incredibly risky solution. They started to put together a secret plan for a massive surprise attack. The mastermind behind this whole operation was Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. Now, he wasn't just planning some small raid. No way. His goal was to deliver a single knockout punch that would cripple the entire U.S. Navy in the Pacific. This, he thought, would give Japan total freedom to continue its expansion. And this plan was brilliant in its details. Everything depended on total surprise. So first, to avoid being detected, the entire attack fleet kept complete radio silence. Second, they took a stormy northern sea route that other ships always avoided. Third, they had a tech problem. Standard torpedoes would just get stuck in the mud of Pearl Harbor's shallow waters. So they actually engineered special torpedoes just for this mission. And finally, the target was crystal clear. Hit the massive American battleships first, the heart and soul of the fleet. So after weeks of secretly steaming across the ocean, all that planning was over. On the morning of December 7th, the time for action had finally arrived. This timeline shows you just how close they came to being discovered. At 6 a.m., the first wave of planes takes off. Then, at 7:02, American radar operators spot them, a massive group of planes heading for the island. But here is the tragic mistake. The officer in charge gets the report but dismisses it, thinking they must be friendly B-17 bombers that were expected. The alarm is never sounded. Just under an hour later, at 7:48 a.m., the first bombs hit. The first wave was pure chaos. Almost 200 planes swarmed over the harbor, heading right for Battleship Row, which is where the fleet's biggest warships were all anchored in a neat line, making them perfect targets. The surprise was absolute. Many sailors were still asleep or just getting breakfast. And at the nearby airfields, American planes were destroyed on the ground before they ever had a chance to fight back. The single most devastating moment of the attack came when a bomb hit the battleship USS Arizona. It tore through the deck and slammed into the ship's ammunition storage, which triggered a catastrophic explosion. The blast was so huge it sank the massive ship in less than 9 minutes. Tragically, over 1,100 crew members went down with it. But it wasn't over yet. About an hour later, a second wave of more than 150 Japanese planes screamed in. Their job was to finish off any remaining targets. By this point, though, the element of surprise was long gone. American sailors and soldiers were at their posts, firing anti-aircraft guns into the sky, and fighting back with absolutely everything they had. In just under 2 hours, the attack was over, but the full impact was just beginning to be understood. Beyond all the twisted metal and smoke, there was a staggering human cost. The number is just stark. In a single morning, 2,403 Americans, sailors, soldiers, and civilians lost their lives. It was a day of just profound loss for the entire country. But out of that chaos came these incredible stories of bravery. Take this quote. It's describing Dory Miller, who was a mess attendant on the USS West Virginia. His job was basically cooking and cleaning. But as the ship was being torn apart, he helped carry his wounded captain to safety. And then, with zero training, he jumped on a machine gun and started firing at the attacking planes until he ran out of ammo. He was just one of so many heroes that day. The attack on Pearl Harbor didn't just sink ships. It completely changed America's role in the world. For years, there had been a huge debate about joining World War II. Well, that debate was now over. The very next day, President Franklin D. Roosevelt addressed the nation. He delivered this iconic line, calling December 7th a date which will live in infamy. Those words perfectly captured the shock and anger of the American people and united the country behind a single cause. And that's exactly what happened. Congress voted almost unanimously to declare war on Japan. With that single vote, the United States officially entered the largest and deadliest war in human history. The sleeping giant, as it was called, was now wide awake. If you look at the numbers, the attack looks like a massive tactical victory for Japan. They destroyed or damaged 8 U.S. battleships and nearly 200 aircraft, while they only lost 29 of their own planes. But here's the thing. A tactical victory isn't always a strategic one. And this part is crucial. Japan missed 3 incredibly important targets. First, by a stroke of luck, the American aircraft carriers, which were about to become the most important ships in the Navy, were out at sea and completely unharmed. Second, the attackers didn't destroy the massive fuel tanks on the island. And third, they left the naval repair yards intact. This meant the U.S. could refuel, rearm, and repair its fleet much, much faster than Japan ever thought possible. The attack was a major turning point in history, and its memory absolutely continues to shape our world. So how do we remember this pivotal event today? Well, the most powerful reminder is the USS Arizona Memorial at Pearl Harbor. It's this solemn white building built directly over the sunken battleship, which is still the final resting place for many of its crew. It's not just a landmark, it's a place to quietly reflect on the true cost of war. And all of this leaves us with a final thought. The events of December 7th, 1941 really show us how history can turn on a dime. It really makes you think, how can a single moment, in a single morning, truly change the path of the entire world forever?